I'm Jon and she's Kate, and this is another episode of Plus 8 on Blog. Alright everyone, if you guys can leave a like on the channel, it helps out what we're doing so much, and we're going to get right in here to talking about Akuma, who is one of the most popular fighting game characters and tends to be one of the more top tier characters around, and so he ends up being a big discussion point. Is this the most evil version of Akuma we've ever seen in the timeline, before at least he's transitioned into Oni? And one of the big reasons I feel this way is Akuma is more likely possessed now by the Satsui no Hado, the Dark Hado, as his face tends to morph into being more demonic, like Oni, during the trailer. And then he also may be losing his grip on the Satsui no Hado, maybe like overtaking him, slowly turning him into Oni, and this might not be a change he's taking on willingly. And so to me, he feels like a character who is more evil in this version of Street Fighter than he's ever been. How does that strike you?
I'm a little conflicted. I'm not exactly sure. We did have access to Oni in Ultra Street Fighter 4, and the thought of Akuma possibly furthering his journey into becoming Oni, I have mixed feelings. I have mixed feelings about it, His journey so far in the trailer that we have just seen a couple of days prior could easily go either way. So I am excited to see what Capcom has in store for us.
All right, so starting off with the more evil stuff, he's considerably larger, with his muscles signifying a power increase. And yeah, you would think that would be due to the Dark Hado again. And the devs actually specifically said that Oni is more muscular than Akuma back in Street Fighter 4. But of course, Oni has a blue skin, which Akuma has not taken on yet. He still has mostly a red tint going on, so it's clear that the Satsui no Hado has not fully consumed his humanity yet. However, since he's bigger, his power increase could come from consuming and storing souls, which we're going to get into here in a second, along with testing himself with others in battle. It's one of the notes that they have there is that Akuma has fought hundreds of battles, or 100 battles now. But they also said that because Oni had bulked up, he specifically has more stamina and vitality. So it's possible that Akuma will not have as much reduced health as we've seen in the prior games. Once again, very heavily speaking to him transforming more into Oni, being more powerful. So my curiosity immediately goes back to, you're not sure if Akuma is going to be as evil as before. Why are you thinking that?
He could be, if it's possible that he is collecting these souls, he could be collecting them for a number of reasons. One is to hide the soul from, say, Shadaloo from creating a duplicate mirror body. Another could be that he could be trying to save the soul so that they could be brought back in a good way, say Gil becoming back again. So we don't exactly know what he's trying to do. We have an idea that in the past, Akuma doesn't go around and necessarily start fights with people that he feels aren't worth the battle range that he is. So he doesn't punch down. So generally, I don't think necessarily that he would be doing this out of pure evil reasoning. I think that there's more behind it.
So let's talk a bit about the soul jars here. And these actually show up now on his brand new stage in Street Fighter 6, and these were not in the Alpha 2 stage. And these most closely resemble the canopic jars, which are what Egyptians would use basically to store body parts when someone was going to be turned into a mummy. And the theory here is that Akuma may be storing souls here, because when he region demons people, he basically kills their soul or murders their soul, which he's actually pretty sketchy on actually doing. But the thought process would be that he's maybe storing people's souls or some parts of them in these jars. And the thing about these jars is there's 6 of them. And Akuma has mostly successfully raging demon people, including Gotetsu and Bison, Gil, Gen, and Goken, and Seth. Those are the 6 people he's done, 6 jars. Maybe, that's it. But one of the things that happened here with Gil is that he raging demon Gil, and then Gil instantly resurrected himself.
That's right.
So so how much is he able to hold on to here? How much is actually going on? But it's really interesting that Capcom put 6 of these jars here in this video, and that they were not in the prior games. So Kate, I want to swing this over to you. What do you think Akuma is doing with these jars? Why do you think he might be not necessarily doing something evil with them?
Well, the interesting thing is that it's the way that the jars, he has them in the trailer. So he has them in a cave with a volcano in the background. There's water everywhere, and there are candles. He has lanterns. All of this he brought with them, and he is destroying the Kaye statues, which from Alpha 2 and in Street Fighter 4. With the statue coming down and destroying the cave, he also has a backup plan of the volcano blowing up. So I think that he is making sure with an insurance plan that no one will have access to digging up or getting these soul jars.
Interesting, because there's quite a few people who would want it. So let's say he has Bison's soul back there, right?
Yes.
Shadaloo, Neo Shadaloo, and then the Team Good Guys, probably mainly Rose, who shares that soul somehow because of Capcom's word plotting. They would probably all want Bison's soul. And so if Akuma's locking that off and basically keeping that away from them, you know, there's something potentially there. And this actually goes back to Tekken 7, where Kazumi, Kazuha's mom, is supposed to be looking, she's supposed to be looking over like Heihachi and Kazuha, making sure they don't get too powerful, and she actually summons Akuma to kill both of them, kind of thing. And this quite the interesting theory here, because Kazumi is basically some kind of a devil herself along with Akuma, but she's also kind of looking out for humanity in some way. And Akuma does have a history of he despises completely evil people. He has a moral code, right? He has something he works off of. So people like Bison and Gil, who are you know, very evil characters generally in the timeline. Gil is supposed to destroy the earth and the universe. Akuma shows up and instantly just goes after him and tries to destroy them. Like he gives them basically no room here. And that would be the caveat throwing out here, that Akuma may not be as evil as he's perceived to be.
Right. From what I have understood from the Tekken series is that Kazumi, I'm not exactly certain of her origins, but as far as I understand, she was always a guardian devil. And we know that Goki Akuma became this through the Nosatsu Hado along the way. So it makes me wonder, she was created this way, he became it through intense training, and they're both basically there, from what I understand, to keep the balance according to Tekken 7. So it makes me wonder if Akuma's end game is to keep the balance, you know, and his final progression is the Oni. But like I said, it's still a little early to say. But it's a very interesting timeline as of right now.
Yes. Yeah. So Kazumi does not want Heihachi to become more powerful, and that's why she asked Akuma to go look after Kazuya and him. And Akuma is asked by Heihachi why he didn't show up earlier, and he says that he was waiting for Heihachi to get more powerful, basically. He didn't want to come after him. Again, that code of honor that you're talking about there. And so actually Akuma pops up there. He does a Raging Demon on Heihachi, which of course only weakens him, because Akuma actually never practically kills anyone with his Raging Demon. We have a whole video on that, by the way, of Akuma like partially putting people to sleep or whatever with his stuff, and he's pretty much only killed Gotetsu with it. But the whole reason that Akuma and Kazumi are working together is somehow Kazumi saved Akuma's life, basically. And we know that Kazumi is not the most evil of characters. Again, she's trying to get rid of evil herself. Why would she save Akuma if you know, Akuma was completely without merit? Like if Akuma didn't have some kind of purpose to serve, basically.
Right.
And that does put him up as more of an anti-hero than a completely full-blown evil character. However, there's the whole transition here to Oni, which is losing all of his humanity. all of his humanity is behind him and all that, and his ability to even recognize himself and for other characters to recognize him, he basically becomes a new character at that point in time, with when he transitions into Oni. Not entirely, it's still Akuma transitioning there, but at the same time, it's a big transformation that he undergoes.
Right.
And so I would think that the Akuma that we're seeing in Street Fighter 6, like especially with the Oni transitions, the devil mask and all the other kind of things we think, to me it feels like he's a more evil version, just because again, the more evil he gets, the more powerful he gets, the buffer he is, kind of thing, the stronger he is. And so that's what leads me to think that. But how do you feel about that?
I can definitely see that coming along through the storyline. In addition to, we're seeing Ryu also getting stronger. Mm-hmm. He's a heavy hitter in Street Fighter 6, and he is a whole lot larger in stature. So, and we did see Akuma have flashbacks of Ryu in his trailer. So
yes,
it really makes me wonder what is going to happen if Akuma and the way that he is now is in line with Kazumi and the Guardians of the World, and they're supposed to be keeping the balance. If Akuma becomes more powerful and he becomes a force against the balance, it's going to make me also wonder who is going to come into the franchise possibly to take Akuma down. Yeah,
you would think that the only person that's capable of doing that would be Ryu, now that he's mastered the power of the nothingness, much
true.
like Goken
Yes.
had. And that's supposed to be basically the yin to the yang, or the Satsui no Hado, that's the power of nothingness, is basically the opposite of it.
Well, and then, if he does, will he slowly start turning into an Akuma of his own?
Yes. Yeah, and that's what Akuma's always been threatening with, that he wants him to transition, embrace the Dark Hado, so that Akuma can get his battle to the death, basically.
That's
to
right.
finally have that happen.
And that's upsetting. He's going, hey, tap into this because I want to take a break. That's a bummer.
Yeah.
I feel a little sad for him.
Yeah. We were talking here about Tekken 7, and my question to you, Kate, is should we consider Tekken 7 part of the canon? This game is not like X-Men versus Street Fighter. That game, that franchise exists in basically a what-if universe. Capcom's talked about that, where that X-Men versus Street Fighter is a what-if game where the characters are basically superhero versions of themselves, and it's not tied directly to a plot of anything at all. But Tekken 7 is a completely different franchise, and the characters look very similar. They act very similar to what we're used to. Kate, do you feel that Tekken 7 should be considered part of the Street Fighter canon?
I think what Tekken 7 has proven so far is that they are working very fluidly with each other. So the groundwork has been laid out. I think it's been done very well. I think that so far we're seeing a smooth road to what possibly could be. And if we did move into Tekken Cross Street Fighter, a game, I think that it would be a very canonly, a positive thing. I think it would be very interesting, yes.
Mm. Yeah, I feel like Tekken 7 is part of the Street Fighter canon, where these other games are not, because Harada and the team at Bandai Namco have a good relationship with Capcom, and they are very knowledgeable about the fighting game community and have a high respect for the source material. So I feel like because the two companies work so well together, that this is unlike these other Versus games where there was just no chance that these games, in the past were canon at all. Like Capcom outright said they weren't. This feels very different, and I think we can look stuff at Kazumi's relationship with Akuma and say, okay, this is maybe not exact canon, but it's close enough, character wise, and they are trying to be very respectful of what's happening with the source material, that I think we can say that it should feed in some way, shape, or form.
I agree.
All right, so I want to get back to Akuma's appearance here. He has more wrinkles on his skin, and he seems to care less about his appearance than he has in the past. His hair is less groomed and more wild. All that evil is probably pretty rough on your body. I think you compared him, Kate, to what did you call him? Like a very angry dandelion or something like that, right?
Yes. Yeah, he's going complete all the way around there. Very, very angry. Also, I feel that looks for him started in Street Fighter V. It worked very well, but he still did not, at that point, have that steelish gray Snow White hair. And now, whatever it is that he's tapping into, we're seeing an aggressive difference between Street Fighter V Akuma and Street Fighter 6. So, like you mentioned, accelerated aging, almost 2 times the body size, and his hair, and aesthetically he's a lot more mature. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's something that actually Nakayama noted in his article about Akuma, that his gray hair is very much more featured. He's much grayer this time. And then he has his rope gloves back,
yes,
which are likely symbolic of Japanese gods who wear ropes to keep their powers in check. We actually saw that as well with Akuma with the Street Fighter 4, one of his alternative costumes. He had the ropes and stuff wrapped around him. And Akuma's actually had the ropes on his hands since Street Fighter 3. And then one of the more interesting things here, getting into here a little bit to Akuma's transition to Oni, is that when Rose beats Oni in Street Fighter 4, she says that she didn't expect him to appear right now. And that means, of course, in the timeline of Street Fighter 4, that Akuma should not have been transitioned basically into Oni at that point. But Street Fighter 6 is quite a bit later in the timeline.
Right.
And we're seeing more and more transitions for the potential basically of Akuma full on going into Oni. And that leads me to the next question here, Kate, of do you think that Akuma, the developers here, when he actually gets there, is going to transition fully into Oni and become that complete evil incarnate character? Or do you feel like he's going to try to hold on to his humanity and be not necessarily a good character, but to try to hold on a little bit to a little bit of his humanity basically along the way?
When Akuma was uppercutting the Kaye statue, and he was tapping into that Satsui no Haro, you could see the Oni mask sort of, wavering around his face, and I was thinking, oh my goodness, he's going straight into it. But he was embracing it, but at the same time he was holding it at bay. I feel as if in that moment he's using it for the additional strength to complete what he feels must be done and what he knows he has to do, or what he's driven to do. But at the same time, if, like we were just speaking a little bit earlier, how he's going back and forth with Ryu, and he's saying, hey, look, I need you to tap into this a little bit. I'm kind of looking for a break here. I feel that he's wavering back and forth and crossing the lines. So, in this storyline for Street Fighter 6, I would not be surprised if we did see Oni coming through at possibly the last season. And I think you'd be excited too. I think Rose is going to be a character.
Yeah.
I think Rose will come through.
If Rose is added to the game, I'm going to do about 50 backflips. But you were mentioning here the Neo statues in the background, basically, and
yes.
This is actually a callback to the Street Fighter 4 Old Temple that had that in there, and of course the Street Fighter Alpha 2 stage.
Yes.
And of course Akuma promptly destroys that, which we'll get into in a second. But the water in this area, this island area, the Gokuento island, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, is blood tinted. And yeah, as you mentioned, Ryu shows up very briefly, call back to that. But actually, this island was destroyed in Street Fighter Alpha 2's ending for Ryu, because Ryu goes basically to fight Akuma at that point, and Akuma's like, hey, you need to embrace the Dark Ado. I'm not going to really fight you. You can beat me or do whatever. And then he destroys the island. And it's like, how the heck is this island back now? Well, one of the theories that we picked up here in the comments, and shouts to the people on Kate's Twitch channel and the comments on EventHubs and on YouTube and stuff like that. We go through there and check this stuff out to see what people are saying. One of the people theorized in there that due to Rose's time traveling, her going back to Alpha or going back to Zero to stop G from destroying the Earth and the universe, she may have basically brought back Akuma's island somehow along the way here.
Right.
And so it's quite the interesting thing that you bring up Rose there, that Rose has very heavy ties to a lot of the characters in this game, and Capcom might be using her a little bit of a DeLorean from Back to the Future to time travel around and stuff and make some things happen. But the fact that Akuma's island is back after being destroyed, decades ago, is quite the fascinating thing.
It is. It is. And it's very interesting how she is a common thread to a lot of different things. You know, just as if you had said earlier there, she has ties to Akuma, Oni, Ryu, and Bison. So we could be seeing Oni and Bison, you know, coming back through, in addition to Rose. And I would also like to see G come back, you know, into the future, because he's still, you know, everyone's trying to take over the universe there. He's my favorite president, so.
Gotcha. He's a pretty good one. So let's talk a little bit about, kind of put a bow on here, in terms of Akuma being as evil or not. He often calls himself a denizen of hell and evil incarnate. Those are two things that he's associated with himself, basically. And he basically, so when he does a raging demon, he has the symbol for heaven R10 on his back.
Right.
And that, you know, in Japanese culture, like demons and devils aren't necessarily as considered to be as evil as they are in Western culture over here.
Right.
Where you know, a devil or devil or a demon over here is considered to be like without, you know, without merit or without any kind of like purity or any kind of like, you know, salvation and stuff like that. In Japanese culture, that could be quite a bit different. Again, hence why Akuma has the heaven or the 10 symbol on his back when he does the raging demon. And as you mentioned, he's potentially looking out by wiping out evil, you know, entities and other things, trying to basically restore balance and keep balance in there. Something like what you mentioned that Kazumi may be doing.
Yes.
So it's an interesting point of contention for me that while Akuma may be transitioning to being more evil and more upsetting, basically appearance-wise and other stuff, maybe he's actually able, with the souls he's got around, with the things he's trying to do, maybe he's able to hold on to a little bit of that humanity there that keeps him as maybe an anti-hero type of character and not fully evil. How does that sit with you?
I like the idea that if they're having more organic-based entities being demons or devils, then they should be able to have a little bit of a push and pull between good and evil. You know, and just like you mentioned, it is a new concept for us over here, because as soon as we think of the devil or a demon or something, you know, that's bad, we think of immediately, you know, Lucifer or Satan, things like that. I like the idea that he can go back and forth, and really what we're seeing with Akuma here, and sometimes in the past, was that eternal struggle. So it's a very, very interesting concept, and we saw that firsthand also with Kazumi. She had a family with Heihachi, and loved him enough to have a son with him. And, you know, Heihachi, of course, loved everybody enough to have 10 million children. So, you know, she was all about it, but it was her job to keep an eye on him and make sure that he didn't get too powerful. And then, of course, when he did, he was powerful enough to defeat her. But before then, that is when she let Akuma have the alert of, hey, you know, you might have to take my husband down. I think it's an interesting thing. I think it's an interesting thing too that on Akuma's back, which is very contradictory technically, is the word heaven. And Kazuya's name actually means peaceful, the peaceful one. So it's something that I kind of understand but don't understand at the same time. But I think it's interesting how they have worked all of these different options and angles into the story, and it's canon. It's all there. It's real.
Well said. So finishing up here, I believe that Akuma is so right as he's destroying those Neo statues at the end, it looks like he's winding up to do his one of his third strike supers where he pounds the ground with energy, as you can see here on screen, and it looks like he's going to do that basically at the end of the teaser after he uppercuts the head off basically, and I'm thinking that's going to be his level 3 in the game. I think the Raging Demon is going to be a different command, but to me that they're teasing basically his level 3 there, and that's what he's doing to finish off the statue. Yeah, Akuma could win a bunch of fans over though if he comes in and actually like murders JP, because I think everyone would Be like, hey, that's perfect. Murder that character. Get on with that.
Right.
Putting a bow
He'll
on
knock
this.
him out, take his staff, break it.
Yeah, there you go. Just to knock him over the head with it. Oh, that'd be perfect. So, Kate, when do you
Stuff
think?
him in a jar.
When do you think Akuma is going to get released? Now we have the CPT kicking off in June here, and I would assume that it's going to be at least 2 weeks before that, if not before then. But what are you thinking right now? They've only so far said spring of 2024.
Well, spring equinox officially started just a few days ago.
Right.
And we did get the trailer for for Akuma just a few days before that. He was originally slated for sometime in spring. I would say possibly late April, early May is my thoughts. How about you?
Yeah, right now I'm thinking May is the most likely, because it does seem like Capcom is having some trouble, with development cost and expenses and stuff going up for the characters and things. It does seem like it's taking longer. That's something that Harada and a bunch of other people have talked about, that expenses for games in this modern era, it's different. And I think it's part of the reason how come we're seeing 4 DLC characters per season right now, although I do think that might go up to 5 here in the future. But I'm leaning more towards May than April, but regardless, right around the corner here. And one thing that we do see oftentimes with DLC characters, and like we saw with Ed, is that the fight pass comes a little earlier than the character is released. So there's a good chance that we'll be able to mess around with some of the Akuma aesthetics basically before we get there.
Right. Yeah, the fight pass right now has been a little bit of the telltale sign. You get the fight pass, you go, oh, I bet in 2 weeks. 2 weeks it's going to be D-Day. So I can't wait. It'll be super hype.